A shell from a German field gun destroys Hong Kong. Harrier and the other tanks tried desperately to get out of its range.
We're going downhill, and we're able to get up a bit of speed. Then I heard a tremendous explosion and saw one of our tracks go flying through the air. But then we got another hit which carried away our roof. Then the third shot crashed through the back and we were out of action.
The gun that destroys Harrier also hits Huntsman and Harvester. The Germans have sprung their surprise, unleashing fire from a weapon that quickly becomes their main tank killer, the 77mm Krupp field gun. Normally used for indirect fire on trenches, the 77 has been modified for direct fire against tanks. And its 13-pound armor-piercing shells are accurate at distances of several miles.
Now, the Germans had started by summer of 1917 to train their gunners in anti-tank work. And the first real evidence we have of this is a location on the Cambrai battlefield at a village called Fléchier, where a line of British tanks run across the front of a German battery trained in anti-tank fire.
And the tanks, with their fuel stored inside, are highly vulnerable to field guns.
Petrol, the gasoline, was actually here in the front, 25 gallons of it either side. So the chances are that if a shell came in, the tank would ignite, it would probably then set the ammunition off, the tank would blow up, and nobody would come out of it alive.
Tanks suddenly appeared to our front around Flesquier. I ordered sights to be set at 700 meters. And with our third shot, we knocked out a tank. In short order, we followed this with 3 more. Then, with my 1 remaining gun, dealt with 4 more tanks.
It was like a shooting gallery. The British tanks were rolling over the hill, not knowing what was coming. He was waiting for them, knowing what was coming.
At close quarters, with direct fire, our courageous artillery destroyed all tanks within range. An impressive number of these expensive pieces of fighting equipment were strewn around the battlefield like so much scrap iron.
In 2 days of fighting, the Allies lose 179 tanks, but take Flesquier, clearing the way to their main objective, Cambrai.
It's really regarded as a tremendous success. This is a victory. The success of Cambrai, however, is illusory.
At the Battle of Cambrai, which is often referred to as the first big tank battle. Yeah, the tanks made good progress. They covered ground up to 30 kilometers. But what's always forgotten, the German stormtroopers took back the same area within a few days with very few losses.
And now the Germans come up with another response to the rolling British armor. A monster tank of their own. History's first tank-on-tank battle is about to begin. In World War I, a tank has become the Allies' best bet for crossing German trenches. By 1917, hundreds are in action on the Western Front. But unknown to the Allies, the German High Command has been secretly developing a tank of their own.
The misconception many people of our age have is that this was an easy task. Building an armored vehicle in the First World War was an enormous challenge. It's like nuclear technology nowadays.
By March 1918, a year and a half after the debut of the British tank, the German Empire sends a 30-ton monster to the front. The A7V is powered by two 100-horsepower gasoline engines, protected by half an inch of side armor, and armed with a 57mm main gun and 6 heavy machine guns.
The German tank, in use in 1918, is a strange beast in many ways. It is, however, very big. It mounts a big field gun right in the nose, and it's got machine guns. Lots of people in there, 18 to 23 people, so it's pretty crowded in there. But at Villers-Bretonneux in 1918, it goes into action.
April 24th, 1918. The Germans, armed with their new tanks, capture Villers-Bretonneux and send the tanks south to the nearby village of Cashy. 3 British tanks advance, unaware that they're about to make history.
The order came, proceed to Cashy, hold it at all costs. Suddenly, an infantryman shouted through our flap, "Look out, Jerry tank's about." I looked out. There, some 300 yards away, a round, squat-looking monster was advancing, and farther away to left and right hauled 2 more of these armed tortoises. A great thrill ran through us all. So we had met our rivals at last. For the first time in history, tank was encountering tank.
The most interesting thing about this fight is both sides didn't have the slightest idea how to fight a tank-to-tank battle. Both sides were astonished at the sight of the other, and both sides were improvising. And after a second of astonishment on both sides, the British fired the first shot in the first tank battle of history.
We kept on a zigzag course. The right gunner made a sighting shot.
Three British and 3 German tanks bear down on each other over the shell-cratered ground. The lead German tank opens fire with its main gun. Hitting both female Mark IVs and blowing holes in their sides. Their machine guns are useless against the heavy armor of the A7V. They withdraw.
2 of the Mark tanks fled the battlefield, not because they were scared, but because they were female tanks, so they just had machine guns. But the male Mark tank, the 3rd Mark tank with a gun, shut it out with the A7V.
With his fellow tanks in retreat, Mitchell's tank must now face 3 German A7Vs alone. April 1918. 3 British and 3 German tanks meet in a battle unlike any in the history of warfare.
In the first ever tank-on-tank battle, we've got a very confused situation where we, for the first time, find that we're engaging an enemy tank we've never seen before. They see it, they engage it, and it simply starts firing rounds at the British tanks and is able to cause a lot of damage.
After his 2 companions are forced to retreat, British Commander Frank Mitchell must now face 3 German A7V tanks alone. The
right gunner made a sighting shot.